Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the only European round of the Operation Motorsport eMotorsport iRacing League here tonight. It's time for round number 4, coming to you from the Red Bull Ring. Myself, Fiona Leary, and Darragh Thacker will bring you all the action. We're Augustin Cisneros behind the cameras for this RaceSpotTV broadcast this afternoon. We've had a good opening 3 rounds, Darragh, now for our only trip to Europe at the Red Bull Ring. If you're going to pick, I think I said this last week, if you're going to pick one circuit to utilise for this calendar season, then in Europe, then I think the Red Bull Ring is a good option to take ahead of this 4th round of the championship.
It absolutely is. It's a fantastic circuit to go racing at. You can never be really disappointed what we see at the Red Bull Ring. Overtaking spots at turn 1, turn 3, turn 4, if you're brave enough at turn 6, and maybe into turn 9 and 10 as well. It really is a fantastic circuit to go racing at. A little bit of a change, really, from what we've seen in the last few weeks in terms of the style of the circuit. We've got that week on week. Nothing really feels like it's the same 2 weeks in a row, and that's kind of what's keeping this calendar, feeling quite fresh.
Let's have a look at the championship standings so far, where everybody is lined up, and it's Martin Wallace who's currently leading the way in the pros after a good performance last week. Ken Copeland wasn't here last week at Sebring, which has contributed to his decline in the standings. Ian Carney also got past him. Matt Swiverman is in 4th place at a Skyler Vickroy, tied on points with Tyler Guillemette. It is Rodney Campbell then next, ahead of Chris Walsh, Jonathan Labby and Gene Kelly, who rounds out the top 10. In the open standings, Justin Bessett is leading the way by 11 points at the moment over Francisco Vega. Carl Shelton is 1 point in front of Nicholas Batista, with Rui Farina Pereira rounding up the top 5. Tyler Manning next to Mason Cardinale, Zach Pritchard, Justin Wells, and then Tyler Reid, who rounds out the top 10. In the beneficiary standings, it is Louis Rios who's leading the way ahead of Cameron Lackney. Nolan Luke is in 3rd place at a Philippe Chartier, with David Bell rounding up the top 5. A few points back to Tanner Masters, who wasn't at Sebring last week. John Salada is next, with Cody Durkin, Joshua O'Connor and John Hicks having missed rounds, missed points so far this season as well. Of course, we'll remind you as well that we've got our three classes: Pro, Open and Beneficiary, all racing together in this series. This is a GT3 only series, and as you can see, 5 o'clock in the evening in the middle of September, 26 degrees Celsius down on the racetrack. That's 79 Fahrenheit for those of you in that part of the world, and it's feeling very, very busy, I've got to say as well. Not experienced this so much actually this season. I guess Laguna Seca we did a little bit a few weeks ago, but Red Bull Ring's actually quite a short circuit, even in GT3s, and so finding track space is going to be an absolute key here tonight in terms of where they're all positioned, where they're all running on the racetrack, and maybe even a slipstream. Battling for a slipstream might even be beneficial tonight.
Yeah, this is the kind of circuit where, because there are so many cars around you, you want to get a good bank of lap time in, and considering that the session is only a handful of minutes, 7 to go, with no times on the board to speak of. So it's critical really to get an early lap time in, but it's so tricky with so much congestion around the circuit to be able to give yourself that window of or good working window to be able to deliver early on. And so we could see a few drivers leaving it on the long finger, set a competitive lap time in this session, and a couple of failed laps and a couple of laps where you have to set the car back up again, and all of a sudden you've got 2-3 minutes left. So this is going to be a fast, frantic session, and you need to get a good lap time in early. Gene Kelly's done that with a 31.1. That's the benchmark at the moment, but many times still to come in.
There certainly are. So we'll keep monitoring those as we go on. There's the Aston Martin, new car into iRacing, of course, and that is great to see. I think I'm an enjoyer of these new GT3s. I know some people say it's getting a bit repetitive, but I'm enjoying seeing the new ones. I'm listening to this Tyler Reid comes out the final corner, actually maybe even too close to that McLaren just up in front of him as he heads out the final turn. But Tyler Reid goes to the top anyway, one of our open class drivers in car 47. Jumps to the top of the times so far, so good start for Tyler Reid tonight. So far 21 drivers have got times on the board, but we're well into the mid to high 30s as far as numbers go tonight, so we expect to see some more close racing throughout the field once again. But another talking point, I guess, for the second week in a row is that Ken Copeland is not here, and that is a big story, I think, in this championship, given the way he dominated the first 2 rounds. and he hasn't been here since. Not last week and not this week here at the Red Bull Ring either. So we may get him out of the championship picture now, and a completely new look to this championship compared to what we might have been expecting after the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, we really did see how fast he was in the opening couple of races. Just pulled away from the rest, so scintillating lap times. But now it means that there's, openings for other drivers just who can try and claim the advantage over the course of his absence. And Tyler Reid, well, he was doing very well indeed. And all of a sudden, he's got an 8/10 gap to close because Matt Smotherman was just at a 30.1. Mind you, there are only 3 times in the 1:30s, and the fast times are 1:30.1. That's an incredible lap for Smotherman. Others like Lackney improving to lead the beneficiary class in P8, but still a full second off. And to find a second at the Red Bull Ring, which realistically has, 1, 2, 3, 4, 6 braking zones at a max, to find a second is incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's just over 4 minutes to go in this qualifying session. Of course, I'd like to remind you that in this series you do have a few sponsors who make these broadcasts possible. A big thanks to Trophy AI, CrowdStrike and Michelin all for coming on board, our partners for this 11th season of the Operation Motorsport, eMotorsport iRacing League. And I say big thanks to them for coming on board once again. Great season so far, and we're expecting to see more of the same. Great racing here tonight from the Red Bull Ring. On board with Charlie Guillemet here into the final couple of corners, leaving it quite late. Less than 4 minutes to go now in the McLaren. And he is he going to get caught up there by that Mustang? It looks like he will do. Qualifying impeding, maybe. Wonder whether Charlie Guillemet is going to say, well, that was definite impeding, or whether he got away with it. Because actually, he still goes into second place despite all that.
He does indeed, and it's still a good lap time, good enough at least for a front row for the time being. Still a little bit of time to see if we can see any improvements. Tyler Manning jumps up to P5, P2 in class, that is, for the Open driver. We are seeing a couple of groups forming. That top 3, all of them pro, the next 4, all of them Open class. Good to see that we are seeing some of the fastest drivers in certain groups sticking together. And is that a 49ers helmet I can see on Zach Merrill? I believe it is. I've got distracted there. I don't know if you can tell.
I can't tell from here, to be honest with you. And I'm trying to look through the window like a weirdo. But but anyway, there you go.
Yes, either way, it's good lap time. I think it is. You can't see. Anyway, we'll probably see at another point. But Merrill doing very well indeed to be inside the top 18. It's a very, very tight field, isn't it? Down from about 9th or 10th to 18th or so, only a couple of tenths in it, and in the middle of the field I think we're going to see a lot of those trains forming at the start of the race and maybe not leaving us right to the end.
I was trying to, my reason for silence, I was trying to think of whether that would bring him any good luck or bad luck based on current form, but I actually couldn't remember, so fine. He goes over the line, Zach Merrill anyway, and he'll get himself in and around the top guys, although that gap now to the front is going to just extend to Tyler Guillemet. That's a better lap time from him, 1:29.7. So he goes to the top. Matt Smotherman goes a bit quicker, but he's still a 10th and a half behind. Chris Walsh, 67 thousandths behind. It's remarkable, isn't it, since we've seen Ken Copeland not in the series anymore, just how close these qualifying sessions get. And again, we're seeing it. I guess you'd expect it a bit more from the Red Bull Ring, but my goodness, it is close again.
It really is. I mean, to have about the blink of an eye between first and second is fantastic. And then we see more drivers coming in behind. Just to join the fray, really, to make this a very exciting qualifying session. Because, I mean, even at the top of the timesheet, so that's between first and second, of course, that we're looking at, between 7th and 8th, Carindale and Manning, who were the leading drivers in the Open class, realistically a pole position there, it's only 0.038 of a second. It's even closer down there. So fantastic to see the tightness and the amount of cars that we're getting within those fast lap times. It looked a little bit far away towards the start of the session when we had Guillemet, or who Smotherman that was, who had that lap time that was some 4 tenths faster than anybody, but everybody's been able to find themselves some clean air and improve. Gene Kelly, Skylar Victory, they improve, and I mean 4 drivers within pretty much a 10th and a half is incredible at the top.
Through the final corner, Mason Cardno just pulls off to the side of the road. And is that his day done in terms of, has he done what he needs to here today to get what... well, no. Jacob Little goes over the line, just as I was saying that sentence. And he goes to the top in the open class. So that changes immediately. 4.5 tenths away now from Matt Smotherman, who now takes the pole position as the time ticks away. The qualifying session draws to a close. And we'll see whether anybody else has got any other lap times to respond with here. Guillemette is, I think, still out there. Yeah, he's just about halfway around the lap, so we'll just follow him for a moment and see whether he can improve any further in this session. Smotherman not too far behind him. There goes Justin Bessett, who goes ahead of Cardno. He's up to 8th position now in the session as well, overall that is. There is car 33, Cameron Burke, running in 14th place at the moment. So I think just in behind him here actually is Guillemette, isn't it, in the background? And he'll be able to, or at least be trying to go a little bit quicker this next time around. Ian Carney moves up to 4th place. Should be a second row start for the Porsche. That's a good lap time from car 54 to move up like that. But into the final couple of corners then for some of these guys from the top end. It's going to be Smotherman and Guillemette both fighting it out for pole position here in a moment. Over the line goes Guillemette. There he is in the McLaren. Does he go any quicker this time around? It doesn't look like it. No. 29.7. And for Smotherman, he just crosses the line there as well. Seeing flash through on the screen. There he goes. And is that going to be an improvement? It was a slight improvement. So 83 thousandths of a second ahead of the rest. And that looks like how it's going to stay for Matt Smotherman.
Yeah, good lap time in the end for the 84. Had that advantage in the session. Lost a little bit of ground, but has been able to put it together right at the end. And a 29.5 is the benchmark. And there are 13 drivers within a second of that, and there are many, many more within 2. And you can see some of those tight gaps. Cameron Burke, Martin Wallace, 5 thousandths between those two drivers. That's inside the top 10. The further back you go, the tighter it feels like it gets. So this is a good-looking grid, and it means that we're going to be set up very nicely for 40 minutes at one of the best tracks for racing that Europe has to offer.
Absolutely, it's Matt Smotherman who takes the pole position here tonight ahead of Charlie Guillemette with Chris Walsh and Ian Carney on row 2. Gene Kelly will be 5th ahead of Jacob Little, who is on pole in the open class. Skylar Vickroy and Cameron Burke then on row 4 with Martin Wallace and Justin Bessett sharing the top 10, rounding out the top 10 rather. Zach Merrill and Mason Cardno are then on row 6. Just inside a second for Tyler Manning, who's 13th. Outside of it for Zach Pritchard, it's Kyle Shelton and Cameron Lackney who share row 8. Lackney, the pole sitter in the beneficiary class. Francisco Vega and Tyler Reid then share row 9. Thad Weaver and Charlie Beeman are running up the top 20 with Thomas Godfrey and Nicholas Batista on row 11. Andrew Cooper and Louis Rios are on row 12. Eric Knight and Rui Farina are next, ahead of Nolan Nuke and Bradley Beeman. It's Mitch Herrick and Justin Wells rounding out the top 30, with Philip Chartier, Jacob Gilday, Anthony Howard and John Hicks rounding out the field. 34 drivers it is there. Dan Fendick didn't set a lap time in that qualifying session. I wonder whether he will be joining us tonight or not. He is not at the moment in the... well, I think he is in the server, but he's not, as I say, didn't set a lap time in that previous time round. There it is again, 5:15, 26 degrees Celsius still on the racetrack. That again shouldn't be too much of a problem. And it's not so early in the year that darkness will start to become a role in this race here today, so it should be nice and easy for everybody in terms of visibility anyway, but not in terms of excuse me, the path to the race victory. That is going to be a difficult one tonight. I mean, it's so open this field now. I keep mentioning it, but Ken Copeland not being in this series anymore has such a drastic impact. If he weren't with us for those first 2 rounds, he absolutely dominated at Daytona, and to a lesser extent, but still the case, at Laguna Seca as well. Now we just look at this field, you see a number of different manufacturers, a number of different drivers, even people in different classes, like what we got at Sebring, and you just see a number of drivers who can definitely, realistically, win this race here today.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it means that we're not just get tomatoes up here in the commentary box, but also the drivers on the circuit don't really know exactly who they're going to be racing the hardest over the course of the 40 minutes here. And the length of race as well, being 40 minutes, is almost that middle distance. It's not short enough to feel exactly like a sprint race, like a 20-30 minute race would. And it doesn't quite feel like an endurance race in the way that a 1 hour and 90 minute race would. So it's that funny middle distance where they're still going to have to make a pit stop. But I think you're going to feel pretty pressed to be pushing right from the start of this one. And again, there's overtaking opportunities everywhere you look around this track. You're not really allowed to feel safe from cars behind you. If you don't attack, you're going to be people are going to start to attack you at the Red Bull Ring. And yeah, we're going to see, I think, some big moves early on, but also some really important trains forming in the early stages, and how drivers deal with that and how they can almost pick their way through a couple of cars. That could be crucial for them further on into this race.
I think another part of it is it's almost admin in a way, that setting your pit stop to be the right length and doing the right things in the pit stop as well, making sure you're not taking on too much fuel or whatever. The pit stop times at times in this series have been very, very different across the board for all of these drivers. So I do feel a little bit like that is a pretty important part of this race as well. Track position, maybe not the most important around here, but limiting the amount of overtakes you have to make might be a good idea. And shortest pit stop as possible always help you, no matter what circuit it's at. So that, I think, is something for some of these guys to brush up on and certainly get right tonight as well.
Yeah, it is, and you can race as fast as you possibly can. I mean, it kind of goes back to a little bit of that conversation that the age-old conversation of qualifying pace versus race pace, what's really more important, and some drivers obviously having more of that qualifying pace because they've just pounded out the laps in practice, but haven't really got much experience of practicing for the race. It can somewhat be the same for those nitty-gritty bits, the pit stops, that you're going to have to do them, and pit entry, pit exit. You know that you're going to have to nail them, but not many drivers really practice them. So I mean, you're right. It's going to be interesting to see who can start or continue to nail those parts of the races, because again, 2-3 seconds in this race particularly could be huge.
It absolutely could. Let's see as we get this race underway, shall we? From the Red Bull Ring, it is round 4 of season 11 in the Operation Motorsport eMotorsport iRacing League, and coming up towards the start-finish line, Mats Mugman in control of the field with Charlie Guillemet just alongside. Let's get this race underway, the only European round of this championship. The green flag will wave in a moment, and it's quite a long way actually for Smugman, but now finally the green flag does wave, and we are 4 wide. Oh, and trouble in the background already. One of the Ferraris has definitely gone into trouble there and lost its front bumper, but through turn number 1 they go. It's all a big stack up, of course, here at the Red Bull Ring, although it's quite a fast corner. When you are up to speed, it is pretty slow on the opening lap for those down the field. Still side by side between Smugman and Guillemet on the way up the hill here in towards turn number 3. Guillemet looking for that outside line, but it's a good defence from Smugman. He goes deep though. It was a good line, but he goes deep, and Guillemet's going to get the exit coming up towards turn 4.
Yeah, let's see, can he get the run down the hill? Chris Walsh is looking like he's got a good run as well in that BMW behind Guillemet as they run their way into the third big braking zone of the lap. Interesting replay there. Difficult it was, a couple of cars stacking into each other before we even really got going. No move in the end for either Guillemet or Walsh into turn number 4. Surprised really how well they've got through turn 3. If you thought they stacked up at turn 1, they stacked up even more at the top of the hill, but they've all managed to get themselves through pretty nicely. A couple of casualties, of course, with a couple of bumpers coming off, but generally very clean start.
Yeah, it certainly has been all the way through, which is fantastic to see from these guys, as Guillemet again applies the pressure, this time in towards the penultimate corner. He looks to the inside, a late dive in fact. Smugman's going to be pushed off the circuit. Goodness me, drama between these two on the opening lap. Guillemet goes through, Chris Walsh follows, and Mats Mugman has been pushed out wide down to 3rd position. That is a decisive pass, but one that may be argued about from Tyler Guillemet.
Oh, and here comes Ian Carney as well, maybe to compound the misery. Smotherman's going to go right around the outside of Chris Walsh, go off the road a little bit as the two BMWs jostle it out, and they're going to allow Tyler Guillemet to get up the road a little bit as they go side by side. That gap is already open to pretty much a second as they run up the hill. Nothing to separate them. They're doing the inside line for Chris Walsh to get onto the stoppers earlier and maybe control that racing line. Wide from Matt Smotherman. He's gone off the road momentarily. He's going to rejoin it. Can Ian Carney get the run? Looks like he may.
Let's see if he can do it here on the way towards turn 4. Smotherman just going backwards, and Carney late on the brakes on the inside. Will he be able to clear him out of turn 4? Yes, he will. So up into the podium places, Ian Carney moves on up into that 3rd position. Smotherman down to 4th. Jacob Little is in the lead of the open class, but Skylar Vickroy just getting past him. Meantime, this is what's been happening a bit further down the field. Nicholas Batista goes, oh, big snap for him, and he does well, actually, not to go all the way around, but he does go off the circuit.
Yeah, he does. What's happened to Nolan Uke up and towards turn 3? It's what we talked about, how they all stacked up. Oh, you can just about see it in front. They're walking into each other, but bumpers are hopping off left, right, and centre. It's just what you're going to get at turn 3. It's such a slow corner. It's going to affect by the time you get towards P30, P35. It's going to be pretty extreme. On the inset, Smotherman inside line on Ian Carney. He was on the outside on lap 2. He's on the inside for lap number 3, and he's not going to be able to get that one done just yet. Carney's got the run around the outside of Smotherman with a great switch because Walton have gone, quite frankly, nearly 2 seconds up the road.
This is the danger with fighting this hard so early on, is that you can very much get distance like that. Meanwhile, Gene Kelly comes down the inside of Jacob Little down in towards turn 3, and it was not going to work, unfortunately, for Kelly. And now Martin Wallace is very close behind. Of course, Martin Wallace is the Pro Championship leader. At the moment, would be losing that to Ian Carney, I think, given the way they're all running at the moment. So, got to be looking to move forward as quickly as he possibly can in these next few moments. And Martin Wallace does decide to strike now. Kelly had just had some momentum knocked back after that failed overtake and is now under a lot of pressure. Round the outside for Wallace. That would be an impressive move if he could maybe get that done, and he might well do. Can he clear? Not quite. Kelly late on the brakes on the inside and might keep the position as a result, but what a run round the outside that was from Martin Wallace. Great run round, and he stays, or indeed gets into 7th place.
Yeah, great launch right around the outside of the corner. He knew exactly where he could place the car, because there's always the risk on the inside line, because you never know exactly how much space you need to give the car on the outside, and so you can be a little bit overly cautious on the throttle in avoidance of wherever they find themselves on the racing line. But Martin Wallace dealt with that absolutely expertly, and has kept himself in 7th. Gene Kelly is surely going to have another go, though, up towards turn 3 as they emerge through the opening corner. They're also chasing after Jacob Little, who's had a fantastic start in the open class, and to have Wallace and Kelly as a buffer between himself and his next closest classmate is going to be very pleasing for him, I'm sure.
Oh, this is what happened to Justin Wells. Big spin out of turn number 1. So avoids going backwards into the wall at least. This is what Mitch Herrick saw. Oh, and followed him actually. Very nearly tracing his tyre marks actually, as he had to get back turned around again out of the first corner. They would both rejoin though. Glad to say that only one driver has had to come down pit lane of the 35 that started, and we did indeed get all 35. Rui Farina has been in already. Some spins, as we just saw there, a couple of them. Might be seeing some more here. Oh no, Thad Weaver just pulling off to the side of the circuit. That looks like a technical. Maybe a pop-up on the screen or something that has just had to be eradicated before getting back going again. That wasn't a great place to try and rejoin. It's a very tight angle. But Weaver anyway gets back onto the circuit and back in the running at least for the moment. This is Guillemette versus Walsh, 1 and 2. It just shows these two, maybe not the fastest two in the field, but if you are in the right place at the right time, you make the right overtakes at the right time, you can break away from the rest, and you're in a private battle now for the win here.
Yes, I'm 3 seconds now ahead of Ian Carney, who's had his own tussle with Matt Smotherman, who may even be embroiled in a battle with Skylar Vickroy in the not too distant future. But Chris Walsh isn't going for the move in rash places. He's pushing Tyler Guillemette through turn number 3. If it's a chance though down towards turn 4, right in the slipstream, he is sat as close as he has all race long to this point. Is he going to have a sniff, have a look towards the inside? He does, and Guillemette can see that and defends very early indeed, and it's a very defensive line for the race leader in towards turn 4, but it's effective. Oh no, it's not, because he spun on the exit. That rear end got a little bit too happy, and Tyler Guillemette going to drop right the way down the order.
Oh, it's a costly error for Tyler Guillemette, who goes for a big spin out of turn 4, and look at the time he's having to wait here. Oh my word, look at this. He is losing time hand over fist right now, and finally he can turn back round again, but not before he is outside of the top 20. This is that moment again, and it's exactly as we've been talking about. Chris Walsh putting the pressure onto Tyler Guillemette, who eventually did blink and did go for a spin out of turn 4. Oh my word.
See it. Just as he got onto the power, a bit of a slide started, and it looked like he held it, and then the rear end started walking around on him. And he took a very defensive line into the corner, likely meaning that his regular acceleration would have changed, and maybe he didn't just enough. And it has come up incredibly costly for him. I mean, it's devastating, really. Not just for him, but for us up here in the commentary box. Now, the leading battle is 3 seconds rather than the couple of attempts we had.
Yeah, absolutely, and it looks like that might be the invitation that Chris Walsh needed, all he needed, perhaps, to go on and win this race now. But let's wait and see on that front. As down on the brakes, up into turn 3. This is all going on back here. Bit of contact for Mason Cardinal as he's in a side-by-side battle with Kyle Shelton. Andrew Cooper was the one who gave him a bit of a bump to the rear end, and there's Tyler Beeman next in line as well. A lot of open class drivers back here, by the way. Gene Kelly has also spun here out of into turn 4 rather. There might have been contact on the way in there, because it's an odd place to find yourself on your own unless you miss the braking point completely, but it's not where you want to be as a pro driver, really, ending up right in the middle of the open class battle, which is effectively 13 drivers in one long line, right the way down from Jacob Little, who currently leads this race in the open class.
Yeah, indeed. But it is good to see that we have those battles, isn't it, almost in clumps at the moment. Pritchard is going to be applying the pressure on Jacob Little quite severely, and Merrill and Manning and Bessett can start to get themselves involved. This is what happened to Tad Weaver, coming through the penultimate corner. Oh my goodness me. I'm not too sure who that was coming through, but did you go left, do you go right? In the end, having to take the very, very tight inside line, but avoiding the car spearing across the road. That's the key. Manning and Bessett fighting it out. Manning around the outside. I think he's got the better of the 4-4-2 for the time being, and he has indeed, but quite little battle between these guys.
It's the open class which I think has been probably providing the most entertainment so far this season, I would say. Tyler Manning, Justin Bessett here will just trail one another, but Manning goes a bit deep on the brakes there, and so Bessett's going to have a good chance to come through here and get up into 4th position. Bessett in the open class category is currently the championship leader ahead of Francisco Vega and Kyle Shelton, so he would be getting points over his closest rivals as things stand, even with just a top 5, but going to change around so much in the open class over the course of this season. You can see it happening already. Ian Carney, meantime, has dropped down from the top end, and he's going to be embedded in the open class drivers now as well. There's Little, who gets into the top 5 now.
Yep, good move. As Ian Carney is the one to drop back now into P7. Little and Pritchard have kind of got themselves into a nice little working window. This is what happened to Ian Carney. Slide through turn number 6, goes very early on, but keeps the wheels spinning, gets himself out of the gravel trap quickly, and only loses a handful of positions when it could have been much, much worse. But it's now the second top 5 runner to make a big mistake in this race.
Yeah. Certainly benefiting these open class drivers with overall positions here as Manning and Bess. Oh, Manning's gone! Another spin through turn 1, and this time it's for Manning. Goodness me, that curve is pretty deadly on the outside. GT3 certainly have a reputation for being able to ride these curves, but that sausage curve on the outside of turn 1 is, first of all, a bit unnecessary, but second of all, it's pretty deadly, as we've seen. And Cameron Lackney now moves up into the top 10 as a beneficiary class driver. This is how it happened down on the bottom right-hand side of the screen.
Yeah, and you can just see he gets into the corner a little bit deeper, and I think it's a case of this track where, or as we see a bit of a side-by-side moving towards turn 4, no, nothing happening there. Turn 1 at this track, with the with the elevation change, and then of course with the fact that you are still turning right as you're climbing onto that curb, means that that rear end is still going to be sat on the curb longer than the front end, and it can kick you around really easily indeed. You can see here he's still turning the wheel as he is, using that rear end or using that curb to almost try and stabilise the rear end, and it's just not going to have it. And Callum Manning paying the price. He's lost a few spots. It's going to be worse for him. We've seen worse spins, but he's not the first. He won't be the last. He's dropped to 21st. And he joins a group of tyres, actually. There's 3 tyres in 4 cars back there.
Tyres?
Tylers. Tyler Reed. We've got Mikey Met.
Tyres? What are you talking about? Okay.
I mean, they should have 4, hopefully, rather than 3.
Yeah.
Right.
That would be ideal. Meantime, Cameron Burke continues to defend this 11th position. Cameron Lackney's having a wonderful race in the beneficiary class so far. Second place currently in the beneficiary class. This is one of his class rivals, Nolan Uke, clipping the curb on the inside at turn 3. And again, these sausage curbs are wreaking havoc with this field here tonight, as I guess you'd expect to see from the Red Bull Ring. But it is, I've got to say, a bit more of a European trend, if I can put it that way, than what we've got on a lot of the other American racetracks. I mean, none of the other circuits remaining in this calendar are particularly renowned for sausage curbs. I mean, I think the Laguna Seca round might be the only one really in America this season that we really had to contend with it. Certainly a key here tonight, but for the rest of the season, Road America, Mid-Ohio, Watkins Glen, Mosport or VIR, I'm not sure it's going to be a factor again. So some of these drivers will be pretty glad to see the back of these after this week.
Imagine VIR with some sausage curbs. That is, goodness me, that is a recipe for disaster. But yeah, welcome to Europe, isn't it, really? I mean, so many of these circuits now popping up with this kind of curb, and clearly a one-stop visit in Europe just to get a taste of them, quite literally, and then head back to America, where it is a little bit flatter, a little bit wider, but there is just less runoff, isn't there? Generally, you think of Mid-Ohio, you think of VIR, that will go to later in the season, very little runoff in comparison to what you have here, where the barriers are pushed back, you've got a little bit of time like dancing grass to get the car stopped. It really is just a completely different feel to what we have over in the States. And really intriguing to have that kind of complete separation, isn't it? But that's just how the style of racing is, and has evolved over the last few decades. Inside line further back, I'm not entirely sure who that was late on the brakes, but I think they're just about going to get one done, or they haven't certainly made it stick. It's Francisco Vega, and they've both let through. I think that could be Guillemette coming through as he recovers from the back.
Yeah, it is, and Tyler Beeman will continue to fight with him. He actually switches sides here and looks to the inside. So one step forward and one step back for Francisco Vega. Was he at fault for this or anything like that? Let's see. Down to turn 3. Oh, he's just about grabbed the apex, but I'm not sure he quite got it turned enough, and I think he probably could be called responsible. Called responsible for that slight half spin of Tyler Beeman there. And he's certainly taken the place as a result as well. They've now been caught as well, have they? This is a different group actually, involving Lackney and Burke and Cooper in the battle for... Oh, and a big spin in front of them for Cameron Burke. So just as he was involved, it's actually Gene Kelly involved with this group, not Burke, because he's gone for a spin. But it's just as well we're near halfway, he can just pop straight into pit lane.
Yeah, he... I mean, there's worse places to have a half spin. He can start that out. He can, he planned that, right? He was going to pit the whole time. But that was a really big kick at the rear end. Lucky that everyone else could avoid. Could have been a bit of an airplane crash, really. Let's see how it looked like from his point of view. Going into the corner, that rear end goes very early, and it's just such a slow rotation of that rear end. He thinks about going back out and then thinks, actually, no, I'm here now. I'll go into the pit lane and dives in. I'm not entirely sure how legal that is. I'll have to double check that to see if there's anything against that in the rule book, but pragmatism after the mistake, right?
Well, yeah, absolutely. Excuse me. Just under 24 minutes to go here tonight, and it's Chris Walsh who leads by nearly 6 seconds. What a great drive he has had so far. Jacob Little leading in the open class. Speaking of open class drivers, Justin Wells goes for his second spin of the night, this time at turn 3. So he just tried to get on the power there. Common misconception that I always talk about in these GT3s is that you can't smash the throttle when you want just because you've got traction control. Wheels still bite. I think Daniel Fendick also finds out, going for a spin, a very similar one at turn 3.
Yeah, he has, and again, just a couple of these spins creep. Well, I say a couple. We've seen loads of them just creeping into a couple of the drivers' races over the course of the evening. Very easy to do. Guillemette working his way through. He's still finding his way up the order. P12 is where he is now. Of course, a couple of pit stops have taken place, but it's a really good recovery drive so far. Once he recovered from the spin, he was about 21 seconds off of the lead. He's now only 26, 27, and when you're coming through traffic in the way that he has done, that's a fantastic effort in the number 5.
Absolutely. You didn't expect anything else, I suppose, from Tyler Guillemette, but nevertheless, it is a great job through the field. I don't think he was there last week, was he? Or was it a different week? I don't think he's been at every round so far this season, unless I'm mistaken. And that's put him a bit further behind in the championship, which he may not worry about too much now. Looks like Wallace and Carney are taking a bit of an early lead in that title fight. Wallace currently ahead of Carney and will be extending his championship lead as things stand, so all things well there. Oh, a bit wide in the gravel there for Jacob Little, who I was just complimenting actually for a good drive so far, but that's a small error, and Ian Carney's going to go straight through. He had his problems earlier, of course, Carney, but now he's into the top 5 overall again.
Yeah, good move, effectively done, and he can now try and chase after the members of his own class. He had to get through on those on that duo of open class drives. It's taken him a few minutes, but he's there now. Before we get to the half distance mark, he's back to the top 5. The difficulty is if he gets past Martin Wallace, there's a bit of a gap of about 7 seconds up to Skylar Victoria, and that'll be the daunting gap to try and close. When we see the pit stops as well, it's going to be interesting. We've seen a lot of drivers go, well, really without too much rhythm before or after that halfway point. All of these drivers are going to get to the half race distance just before they make their pit stop, give or take. And if they go around one more time, of course, they'll be well over that halfway point. But the longer that they can go, the shorter the time in the pit lane they should need, because they'll need less fuel to put into the car.
Yeah, it's always been such a big factor of these races. And it will be again tonight. Little goes wide now, and Zach Pritchard is on the march in that Porsche. Look at him go now. Wow, that's a strobe lighting there, was that on the front of the Porsche? Not sure if that's a new sort of headlight flashing method, but anyway, he was utilising that a little bit going towards turn 6 there, and now through the 2 left-handers. This is real pressure being put onto Jacob Little at the moment. Zach Pritchard is going to try and come through if he can before this pit stop phase, or is he just going to cut his losses and come straight in here through the double right-hander? And no, well, Little is going to carry on again. Pritchard will follow him as well. This is going to be a proper battle now for the open class lead.
It is. Little and Pritchard have kind of been able to keep themselves at arm's length for a few minutes, but not anymore. In the background, Justin Bassett's going to go for Zach Merrill for P3 in class, inside line of the 442. He's going to get that one done, I do believe, and there he goes, sliding his way through and being able to control it on the exit as well. So they're 2 by 2 in this open class for the time being. Bassett's made the move for P3. Here comes Pritchard to make the move for the class lead. Little's defending the inside line. How long can he hold on? Pritchard trying to walk it all the way around the outside.
It's a great battle for this open class lead, and Little there just gets caught up rather on the inside of turn 3. Pritchard goes through and uses that acceleration of the Porsche to punch down in towards turn 4 with the lead. A good pass for Pritchard, and he will now try and run away with that race lead if at all possible, but Jacob Little will be chasing him all the way, I am sure. And now that we're past halfway, might be worth, to be honest, now that he's lost the lead, might be worth Little deciding to just come into pit lane. If Pritchard decides to come in before him, he's going to have to slow down for the Porsche, or indeed come in with him to cut his losses. So I think it might be worth coming in this time round to try something a little bit different. As off the circuit is Kyle Shelton, meantime, down at turn 3.
I don't know how he's ended up there. I'd love to see a replay of what's happened, because he's somehow speeded it a long way. Well, yeah, a long way into the exit of the corner, but facing the wall. Let's see. Does the rear end step around? Does he just give it a spin? Yeah, he does. Oh, he must have tried to spin it back around and didn't get enough flick on the car. Yeah, that's exactly what's happened. That's why he's had to reverse. That makes a lot of sense. But not the first driver we've seen, not the last driver I'm sure we'll see losing the rear end through turn 3. The load changes quite heavily on this GT3 car when you rise over that crest, and a couple of drivers have clearly been struggling to deal with that.
Yeah, certainly. Well, this is super close at the front of the open class at the moment. Pritchard, Little and Bassett. We've got on board with Zach Merrill, who's here as well, in that 4th position in the group. Starting on board with the Mustang. 3 Mustangs in a row at the moment, as you can see, towering over the Porsche just up in front. And I wonder if Bassett's going to see Little as being in the way, really, rather than one he can work with, because he's been the one going backwards in recent laps, and Richard's been on the charge. Just best to believe he can go past and go on up ahead here as we end another lap. Is anybody going to decide to use the pit lane maybe to get ahead? Well, Chris Walsh is going to use it. He comes in from the lead of this race, and you just wonder in that case just how much further these guys might be able to go on fuel anyway.
Yes, Smotherman goes through, Vickery goes through. I think Martin Wallace is going to go through as well. Oh, I'm not too sure. It depends. He does. That lap, the gap, sorry, wasn't changing too much. Carney goes through. Where does Chris Walsh come out then? He's behind Pritchard, behind little Bissett and Merrill. That's Bissett coming through. So he's not behind Zach Merrill. Well, he's side by side with Zach Merrill, but he's ahead of Tyre Guillemette, who of course hasn't made that pit stop. He's lost about, what's that, 20 seconds in change over Matt Smotherman, who will be looking to come out ahead of Tyler Guillemette. The difficulty, though, for Chris Walsh is he's come out of the pit lane and he's been thrown right into a 5-car train that doesn't really want to have to fight his way through just on the exit of pit lane.
Yeah, this is pretty much the worst possible scenario, isn't it, really, for a race leader, especially considering a lot of other people just went by pit lane and carried on again. Get the feeling that he could have gone further, Chris Walsh, but decided not to. And he might well come to regret that, because he did have a few seconds over Matt Smotherman, but didn't have all that many. His pit stop was the shortest out of everyone's we've seen so far, so that is going to be a help to him, very much so. But if Smotherman's is even shorter, or even around that sort of time frame, then Walsh is going to be under serious pressure at the end of this little run here, unless he can start to make some moves, or indeed they come in themselves. Best having a look there on Jacob Little on the way towards the penultimate corner, but he couldn't get past. Is Little coming in? No. But Pritchard is, I think, so there's one in, but that doesn't help Chris Walsh very much.
No, we've still got to get through on 3 of these cars, and he just can't sit around and wait until they come into the pit lane to make it easier for him. He's lost a full second to Matt Smotherman since coming out of pit lane. That gap was 17.3. It's now up to 18.6, 18.7 as he comes through turn number 1. And he goes very wide and over that sausage curve. That's a dangerous place to be, as we've seen so far. I mean, he's flashing the lights to the cars in front, but they have no obligation to get out of the way. Yes, he's the net race leader, but these guys have still got their own race to run, and they have to make a pit stop as well. So, he can flash his lights all he wants, but they have no reason to get out of the way for him. Chris Walsh could have gone longer. Well, if he had enough fuel, he could have gone longer, but he chose not to. And this is exactly the price he's paying for that choice.
It's a heavy price as well. He looks down the inside of Zach Merrill here, and this is only one of the 3 that he has to make here. It's down the inside at turn 4, and he goes through into 7th place overall, but this is crucial laps now. We'll see what his lap time actually is at the end of this lap here, but to give you an idea, these guys last time round were nearly a second slower than Smotherman, so if Walsh is going to be restricted to that sort of time in these next laps or so, even if it's just for a lap or 2, and he's going to be in real trouble. Ian Carney, meantime, has gone off somewhere, and he drops down the field. Smotherman, in turn, is going to reach some traffic of his own, so maybe that will save Walsh a bit. There goes one of the Corvettes pulling right in front of him. 2 of the Mustangs, though, are side by side in front of Walsh. This is disastrous.
Oh yeah, tries to slip down the inside at the final corner. That can be a little bit, touch and go as he tries to get through on Jacob Little. Here comes Zach Merrill as well. He's got a fantastic run out of that corner. He won't make it 3 wide, especially with his teammate involved as well. But as they work their way up in towards turn number 1, it'll be the inside line for Chris Walsh. He'll control that and will carry on his merry way. Smotherman was getting absolutely, peppered with some of the traffic as more flashing with the lights from Chris Walsh. Maybe he thinks it's a nightclub already. But he is going to be maybe going to the inside on Bissett. Is he? Yes, he is. Braking late. I think Bissett saw it coming. Walsh is through. He's cleared the group, but he's lost some time doing it. What can Matt Smotherman do? Can he short off the pit stop enough to come out in the lead? It's going to be close, I think.
I think it will be, yeah. Last time round lost just over a whole second, did Chris Walsh. That's not a time loss he can sustain for very long before he starts to have to think about where he's going to make overtakes, because that's what he'll end up doing. Zach Pritchard, by the way, has exited this group, of course, to make a pit stop. Trying to find where he is. 11th place at the moment after a 10.9 second stop. It was far from the shortest, but he is still the net race leader in the class. He's actually highest up in the field of those who have stopped by a good 7 seconds, so he's looking okay for the moment. But Chris Walsh using this newfound clear air to punch into. There, meanwhile, is Cameron Lackney, 13th place, still the beneficiary class leader, and has made a pit stop so far. Louis Rios currently in second place in that class, and Philippe Chartier, who currently runs in third. But it's a great return for Lackney, who will be getting much closer to Louis Rios' championship lead if this result holds.
Yeah, we'll see how long it does, hold up for. I mean, there's only 12 minutes for us to find out, really, isn't it? So it's going to be an interesting race to the conclusion. Martin Wallace is running behind. That's a lapped car in front of him. So one that should be jumping out of the way, not really affecting him too much. For the 666, of course, we saw him earlier making that fantastic move around the outside of turn 7, which became the inside of turn number 8. And he's still inside the top 10. It's going to be a good day for Martin regardless. Tyler Guillemet, he's yet to pit as well. He's just behind Zach Merrill and Jacob Little. He's had a fantastic... Oh, hello. He's not going to be behind Jacob Little for very long because he's gone wide and off the road. Guillemet's had an incredible recovery drive. Wherever he shakes out after the pit stop, it's going to be interesting. But look at that. Around the outside at turn 6. Yes, please. Guillemet's up to P4 overall at the moment.
It's, as you say, not going to last too much longer as these stops are looming, but a good overtake to move up into 4th place and a great recovery as well over the course of the day. So hats off to him with 11 minutes to go. Still, though, we're waiting for some of these stops. This is taking quite some time for the stops to actually happen. And now Little comes in, Jacob Little. This is what happened to Cameron Burke, meantime. That's not the first time we've seen that Ferrari just seem to lose grip for almost no apparent reason through some medium to high-speed corners.
Yeah, and the shouting of brake before he gets into the wall, I'm sure would have been in the sim rig, and he just about managed to keep it out of that tyre barrier, which is good news for that rear end. Means that he won't have to take any damage, of course. Jacob Little missing his marks in the pit, so having to reverse back a little bit. That'll cost him a couple of seconds. Yeah, and even those little mistakes that don't feel like they add up. At full racing speed, when you see how much time he would have lost on those, it's huge, and it's going to be gutting for Jacob Little. 11.8 seconds for him, stopped in the box. He'll come out, I believe, just outside of the top 10. We may just... Oh, there we go. Andrew Cooper will replace him there. Matt Smotherman, when does he pit? Bessette, Guillemet, Merrill and Kelly, the other drivers in the top 10, yet to make their stop. To be honest with you, Guillemet may still come out inside the top 10, when he makes his pit stop. It's been that good of a recovery drive from him. But Smotherman continues. 10 minutes to go, and he's still not come in yet.
It's remarkable, isn't it? Of all the circuits we've seen so far this season, with the exception of Daytona, of course, you'd expect this one to be a pretty fuel-thirsty one as well. But there you go. Still no stops being made by a lot of these guys. And I mean, the 6-second stop at shortest, by the way, for Tyler Beeman suggests that it really is a splash and dash in this race here tonight. Based on what we've seen so far. Anyway, this is Thad Weaver, who's right in the mid-pack at the moment. One of our open class drivers. Right in behind Thomas Godfrey here. And Dan Fendick as well. They've just gone a lap down. And so they're embedded in a lot of traffic as well. This is another thing that actually might be balancing it out between Smotherman and Walsh, is that he's had to make pretty much all of these overtakes on the circuit to put these guys a lap down. And although it is only putting laps on people, it does still hold you up.
It does, no doubt about it. And every tenth and every second is so critical in a race like this. When you've only got 40 minutes, you don't really feel like you have much time to recover from any lost time. But Tyler Manning, outside line manager, but not just yet. As we see, is that... No, it's not the out of the pit lane. It's just a lapped car coming out of the box. But it really is intriguing, I think, when you have a race like this, about those little time losses that you can accumulate over the course of the race, because you don't really have too much time to recover those. That car gets very, very close with Tyler Manning. Tyler Manning's going to end up losing out quite a lot of time. And again, that's an example of that. You lose out half a second, that could be really damaging for him. He's only got 8 minutes. Can he get back close enough to have a go at the top 10? Again, we'll have to wait and see, but it's exactly what I was talking about.
This is not great lappery, really, from the lap car. Not sure who it was, but Tyler Manning very much the innocent bystander in that one. And he in the end got away with it, really, but still not ideal. And Jacob Little would follow through on the way towards turn 4. This is Justin Wells. Not his first spin through turn 3 tonight. And there's another one. Thankfully just able to roll off the circuit without causing any trouble back there, which is good news for the oncoming traffic. 7.5 minutes to go, and still Smotherman, Bessett, Guillemette, Merrill, Kelly and Manning have yet to come in. I do wonder at what stage we start to wonder whether these guys are just going to no-shop the race completely. I'm still not going to believe that is going to happen, but they are staying out an awfully long time.
They are. You know, the amount of laps where they could be coming to the pit lane is ticking down and down and down now. But yeah, I mean, Matt Smotherman's just kind of in a world of his own at the moment. Chris Walsh is some 20 seconds behind, give or take. Bessett, Guillemette, Merrill, again, they're kind of in their own little world because the drivers that they were racing are that much further back. There was a move to the inside, I think, was that Gene Kelly on Zach Merrill? I'm not too sure, just in the background here. Either way, there was the Aston Martin coming through. I don't believe that was Gene Kelly, but they've both made it through on the number 16. It is getting frantic, you know, across the track at the moment, and it's difficult to pick out who is where because Matt Smotherman is so far in the lead compared to even inside the top 10, you know, 2/3 of a lap or so. It kind of distorts where some of these battles are on the circuit. With the difference in pit strategies, it really is meaning that it's going to come down to a focused 5 minutes as we do see Bessett get into the pit.
Yes. They're both in, so no surprises for those. But how long's the stop going to be for Bessett? 5.6, that's a bit more like it as far as a good result is concerned. He could be quite close to Pritchard. He's actually got ahead of Guillemette again. So this could be very close indeed. Where is Pritchard? He is not coming through for the moment, and that is Justin Bessett in the lead of this race. Pritchard was 5.3 seconds slower in the pit box, and that has allowed Justin Bessett into the lead of this race. Tyler Guillemette is going to try and come through in any case and get up into 7th overall. There's Pritchard in the background, so he will try and catch back up to Bessett, but it looks like the championship leader is now in a prime position to win this race.
Yeah, absolutely fantastic spot to be in now, and Guillemette as well, to come out where they have. He's absolutely fantastic. Yes, there's 5 minutes to go. No, he won't catch Martin Wallace on this current pace. But there are a couple of pit stops left to come. It could get even better for Guillemette, who, of course, was battling for the race lead. Spun there, just behind where they are now at turn number 4. Dropped outside the top 20, but could still finish inside the top 5. What a drive it's been from him to recover from that early mistake. And like we've said, 40 minutes isn't a long race, but he has made use of every single lap up to this point. Smotherman's gone around once again. Somehow, which means that we are going to have what you think. I think we're going to have 3 more laps or 4 if he comes into the pit lane. But it's not a lot of time for these guys to make use of their cars once they're out of pit lane. But wherever Gene Kelly and Zach Merrill come out, let's see if they can do anything on exit.
I think, yes, it will be 4 laps to go. But there's Smotherman. He is the last man standing if Manning doesn't come in as well. And we'll see whether he does in a moment. But out of the pit lane meantime come those who have just been in. Gene Kelly on his way back out again. And there he is in the bottom of your screen in 8th place. So not far behind the Bessett and Pritchard battle. Zach Merrill's been in there for an age. I wonder whether he's got a black flag or something, because that is a very, very long stop, unfortunately, for one of the race contenders earlier. Now Martin Wallace has made a mistake through turn 3, and Pritchard is going to try and get past him. Bessett already has. Guillemette is ahead of them, and his recovery looks to be complete up to 4th as Smotherman comes in with less than 4 minutes to go.
Yep, and he will make that pit stop. Let's see how long the stop time is. I'm going to guess it should be about, 2-3 seconds realistically. Maybe 4 or 5, just to make sure that he gets some fuel in. Martin Wallace, it's frustrating for him to spin this late on up at turn 4. 6 seconds is the stop time for Smotherman. He's going to come out, but he's going to be somewhere behind Chris Walsh. Matt Walsh and Chris Smotherman apparently existing now in this alternate universe. But he is going to be, 3 seconds behind Walsh, who's just quietly gone about his business, plugging away. It's worked out for him. And unless Smotherman can somehow close this gap down in the last 3 laps, it's going to be a procession to the end for the 104 and the 84.
Yeah, and it was actually a shorter pit stop again as well from Smotherman, but even so, Walsh is still quite a long way in front. It just shows that those moments when he initially came out the pit lane didn't last too long. He managed to get through pretty efficiently, and that's what effectively allowed him to go on and get into this position where he may well go on and win from here. Still 2 laps to go though when they get to the line. It is putting it into question though for me about what we might see in the remainder of this season. We've got some circuits that are not quite as heavy on the fuel burn as this one. I just wonder whether we might see a strategy from one of these guys, one of these races maybe, where they decide that maybe a no-stop strategy is a good idea, because that was pretty close, to be honest, to making it in one go.
Yeah, very close indeed, and the fuel is capped, of course, in these cars. They're not given a full fuel tank, or sorry, they can't use the full capacity of the fuel tank, I should say, in these races, because if they could, they could easily run the 40 minutes without making a pit stop. So they are capped, but drivers making full use of every single fluid ounce that they have in those tanks, clearly, because they can run right towards the end of the session. Wide from Martin Wallace. Oh, it looked like they nearly could have been in contact with Zach Pritchard. They may have avoided it, or they may have been contact. Difficult to see from the angle that we saw. But the 6 is into P6 ahead of the 666, which is by Martin Wallace.
2.7 seconds. It looks like Justin Bessett's on his way to another victory this season. This is what happened to Martin Wallace, a bit further back in the pack. So now he's now even behind Gene Kelly after running earlier on up inside the top 5. He is our championship leader in the pro class, don't forget, Martin Wallace, so big one to watch, this one. This is when Pritchard was right in behind him, and he just understeers off the circuit, really. Taking a trip through the gravel. And there you go, back on again, bringing all those stones onto the racing line just briefly, but through the double left-hander, that very same double left-hander for Chris Walsh. He's 4.5 seconds ahead of the rest, actually. And again, despite the traffic earlier, despite the longer pit stop, he is showing why he is the leader right now, because he's extending that gap over Smotherman. Ever since Matt Smotherman came out the pit lane, he's only been increasing his lead. It's 4.5 seconds now as he sees the white flag.
Yeah, and he took that, well, what we thought at the time to be the more conventional pit stop strategy, pitting about halfway. And then running behind some of the open class drivers, but in the end it's not really affected him. He's had a much more 50-50 race than some of the others who have run right towards the end of or as far as they could into this race without making a pit stop, but it's not affected Chris Walsh at all. It's been a composed drive since he's gone into clean air, and whether Matt Smotherman's just backing off a little bit, knowing that he just wants to consolidate this P2, whether this really is Chris Walsh pushing on, showing the amount of pace he's got. It really has been an impressive day for him.
Certainly has. As Thomas Godfrey also sees the black flag at the end of this one. Unlikely to have too much of an impact. As further behind, by the way, Cameron Lackney still just under 5 seconds in front of Louis Rios. It's going to be a championship that gets close to that one further down the field. So should be an exciting few weeks to come when we go racing again. Continue on from Road America next week, by the way, 30th September. So make sure you join us for that as well. But this is Chris Walsh now coming into the final couple of corners, and this is a driver who has shown speed really over strategy tonight. He came out in traffic, he had a longer pit stop, but it didn't matter. Chris Walsh wins here from the Red Bull Ring in round 4 of the Operation Motorsport eMotorsport iRacing League, flashing his lights. Very, very pleased indeed with his evening's work. Justin Bessett is going to win in the open class a little bit further down. The championship leader strategizing his way in front of Zach Pritchard. Despite maybe not having quite as much speed, it's maybe just roles reversed really between these two compared to the leading pro drivers. Bessett comes through the final corner now, and he wins in the open class from the Red Bull Ring. And in a few moments' time, Cameron Lackney will come over the line as well to win in the beneficiary class a little bit further behind. This is a bit much more congested part of the field. But 3 deserving class winners and different routes indeed to getting it. It's Chris Walsh's first victory of the season. And as I say, very much deserved on pace rather than strategy.
Yeah, and it's been really interesting to see how, that pro class has been won by pace, the open class won by strategy, and the two sides of the same coin. Cameron Lackney has controlled that beneficiary class really all race long. And a P15 overall and a winning class. Delighted for him to pick that up towards the midpoint of the season. But yeah, all manners of styles of wins here this evening, and it just goes to show you have to have the pace, but you also have to have the strategic nous to be able to win week in, week out in this series.
That's Chris Walsh, who has won this week by 5.2 seconds ahead of Matt Smotherman. Tyler Vickeroy rounds out the podium. Charlie Guillemet in 4th place. Justin Bessett rounds out the top 5 with Zach Pritchard just one position further behind. Gene Kelly is next ahead of Martin Wallace, with Jacob Little and Andrew Cooper rounding out the top 10. Just outside of that top 10, it's 11th for Tyler Beeman. Francisco Vega, who's up there in the Open Class Championship, 2nd place coming in today, will lose quite a few points from 12th place. So ahead to Tyler Reid, who will see the same. Mason Cardinale, 14th, ahead of Cameron Lackney, who wins in the beneficiaries class here tonight. Carl Shelton, also just over a minute back, with Bradley Beeman, Nicholas Batista, Louis Rios and Zach Merrill rounding out the top 20. Philip Chottier was the first driver one lap down, with Thomas Godfrey also. John Hicks just rounding off and outside actually of the beneficiary class podium. Cameron Burke and Thab Weaver round out the top 25, with Tyler Manning, Eric Knight, Anthony Howard, Rui Farino and Jacob Gilday rounding out the top 30. Dan Fendick finishes 31st, with Mitch Herrick 2 laps down. Ian Carney 4 down after running well early on. Justin Wells had multiple spins, finishing 7 laps down at the end. Nolan Duke was the only beneficiary class driver not to finish the race today. Well, let's have a chat, shall we, to a couple of our drivers, starting with, I think we'll start with Cameron Lackney, who has won the beneficiary class here tonight. Cameron, welcome in. Good to have you with us, and congratulations on winning from the Red Bull Ring tonight. How was your race? Because at one stage we saw you in the lead by a long way in your class. In the end, it was a bit of a tighter finish than certainly we were expecting. How was the general flow of the race for you?
The start of the race was really good. I decided to be patient with my strategy, let the tires come up to temp, and then I started giving my good push, just looking for consistent lap times. Unfortunately, after I just pushed the tires a little too hard, I was struggling with high pressures. And that's where I lost a couple positions and then had an unfortunate little incident into turn 1. Not really sure what happened there. I'll have to take a look, but it was a great race. It was fun. Yeah, I had a great time, and it's my first league win. So shout out to my wife. Thank you for putting up with me.
And indeed, you'll close the gap on Louis Rios as well. I mean, what does this do in terms of confidence for you now, taking forward into the next few rounds, knowing that we do have a proper title fight in this class this season?
It gives me a lot of confidence after coming off of Laguna Seca and not finishing that race and not sure how we're going to do this season. Seeing this and keeping up with the pro class for the most part gives me a pretty good shot at the title this season. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Well, we look forward to seeing you again, of course, next week when we go racing again. But for now, Cameron, thanks for chatting to us, and congrats on winning tonight.
Thank you so much.
Thanks very much. That's Cameron Lackney, who wins in the beneficiaries class here today. Louis Rios finishes in second, 18th overall, but second place in the beneficiary class here today. And we'll be joined by him as well. Louis, welcome in. Congratulations on second place here tonight. Unfortunately, I guess it's Cameron Lackney in front of you, but to focus on your race for a moment, how are you feeling at the end of that one, please, with second place?
Pleased with second place, given what I got into early on. I don't know if you guys saw it. Kind of got a little bit of damage on that first lap with all the chaos going on. And then, just had to kind of make it through to the pits with that damage and my wheel kind of sideways. And just managing essentially this race.
I must admit, I didn't realise you were involved in it. We did see it. I didn't realise you're quite involved. What do you think could have happened here tonight? Obviously, it's a difficult question to answer, I suppose, in one sense. But did you have the pace? Did you feel to challenge Cameron Lackney for the win tonight?
I think I definitely had the pace, but the consistency just wasn't there today. Especially seeing what I did in qualifying. I had an okay practice and just kind of didn't show up in qualifying, and that really affected my race there.
Well, congratulations on rescuing second place, nevertheless, in the beneficiary class here today, and thanks for chatting to us at the end of the race as well.
Hey, thanks to you guys again for an awesome broadcast, and thank you to Operation Motorsports and the rest of the sponsors.
Thanks very much. That's Louis Rios, who finishes in second place here tonight in the beneficiary class. Third place was Philip Chartier, who can chat to us as well. Philip, welcome in. Congratulations on a podium in the beneficiary class here today, 21st overall. Once again, are you pleased with the third place here tonight as well? Just 21st overall?
I am. Just yesterday was the first time I actually jumped on the track and got some laps in, and I just tried to find a consistent line today, and it worked out pretty well.
How's your season been going in general? A lot of the focus has been on Louis Rios and Cameron Lackley, to be honest, who are 1 and 2. But you're nipping at their heels in third place in the championship. How do you feel it's gone so far, and do you think you can get near those two at the front any time in this season?
Oh no, they've been running really great. They got really fast laps, and but I'm happy with where I am. I'm right there, kind of in the middle, and I'm very pleased with not being at the back.
Well, congratulations on that and a podium here tonight, and thanks for chatting to us again at the end of the race.
Thank you so much. Thanks for what you guys do.
Thanks very much. That is Philip Chartier, who is third place in the beneficiaries class here tonight. Now, we don't normally get to chat to other people from other classes, but we will chat to open class driver Zach Pritchard before we go. Zach, welcome in. Good to have you with us as well. As an open class driver, you were involved in a great battle for the race win, I've got to say, in the open class here tonight. Just 2.4 seconds off of the win. In the end, what do you think this race came down to for you and Justin tonight?
Yeah, we had a great car. Shout out to Hymo Setups. Great setup. We had a little bit of lap traffic with a pro driver. He had a bad re-entry, and it just felt like he was holding us up a little bit there. I think if we had a couple more laps, we definitely would have got out there and got Justin for that lead. Definitely pitting a little bit too early on the box and taking fuel a little too early.
I suppose all lessons to be learnt going forward as well. But how crucial has that fuel strategy been? Because we've seen in the broadcast booth quite a lot of difference between the shortest pit stops and some of the longer ones. I mean, you had one of the longer ones today, but Bessick was nearly half of your time in the box. Just what is this all coming down to, and how important is it in these races to get that part of it right?
Yeah, so it's really important to get a good pit. I played for an undercut this race, and sadly it just didn't work out. Our last out laps coming out of the pits and getting fuel, we really just didn't have the pace we needed to start covering that ground that we needed. We did take an extra lap of fuel, and it really did help us in the end. We were bottoming out on fuel, so I'm glad we did that. It cost us a little bit more in the box, but definitely was worth a while.
Well, congrats on second place in the open class here tonight, Zach, and thanks for chatting to us at the end as well.
Thank you so much.
Thanks very much. That is Zach Pritchard, who is second place, in the open class here today. And good to hear from somebody from a different class as well, as good as it is to hear from our beneficiaries class drivers as well. That's just about it from us here from the Red Bull Ring in the Operation Motorsport eMotorsport iRacing League. A good trip to Europe for the only time this season. Darren now back to America and Road America for the next round of the championship. But this season has really opened wide after, unfortunately, Ken Copeland not being here for the last couple of rounds. It's really given us some different scenarios.
Yeah, and we're still getting to the halfway point of the season as well, which means that there's still so much great racing to come. In Road America, we've gone from one of the shortest tracks in the calendar to very much one of the longest. It's going to be a very long lap time here, and a lot more dead time, a lot less time for overtaking moments. There's going to be a lot of drivers, I think, looking for a couple of highlights down at Canada Corner, maybe Turn 5 as well. But yeah, it's going to be a really exciting race and very different to what we've got tonight, I'm sure.
Yeah, absolutely. It's back to America next week, so make sure you join us from 8 p.m. Eastern Time on September 30th for that latest round here on RaceSpotTV. We'll be live with every round, of course, with you until October 28th on Tuesday nights. I've been Neil O'Leary alongside Darrell Thacker with Miro Augustin Cisneros behind the cameras tonight of this RaceSpotTV broadcast of the Operation Motorsport eMotorsport iRacing League. We'll see you in 1 week's time again from Road America and leave you with these images of the start here from the Red Bull Ring. A great round in our only trip to Europe of the season. Make sure you join us again next week over in the States once again. It's goodbye for now.